The purchase orders module of Evolution MX allows not only for the raising of material orders, but also for subcontractor orders. This would replace the need for you to use the subcontractor module to manually enter details of orders against which you want to maybe raise payments going forward. So using the purchase orders module and the subcontractor order processing submenu, we'll be able to enter a new order. Now it'll recognize this as specifically being a subcontractor purchase order rather than a normal materials order. We indicate now the contract against which we want to raise a purchase order. So we can do a full search or look up on contracts or just purely enter the contract number. Automatically grab the next purchase order number. In this case, it's 159 from a central library of purchase orders. And I'm prefixing it with not only the contract number to give an indication of the job it's for, but also SC is my chosen prefix for a subcontractor purchase order. I may choose to make a record of who's asked me to raise a purchase order if you're operating central purchase ordering. We can also recognise buyer limits. It may be that you impose a limit of, say, £500 on somebody for raising a purchase order of a subcontractor nature. If they go above that value, then they'll be expected to get authorisation. Indicate now also the subcontractor against who you want to raise a purchase order. Again, full searching and lookup is available to you. I'm also getting an indication that in this case there's a worry about the insurance. The public liability insurance details on that particular subcontractor have been found to have already been expired. Not going to stop me from going onwards, although there is an option for that to be a prevention should you prefer it. I've got the choice of maybe multiple points of contact that you may have at that particular subcontractor. This could indicate different email addresses, for example. I'm going to choose to email out this purchase order and it would therefore go to the appropriate recipient selected on that drop-down list. I've also got a CC option, so if I want to CC this to the contract manager or the QS, I've got the option of including them in a circulation list. Down towards the bottom, we've got the option of being able to include the makeup of the purchase order. And this is going to use the work categories that you're probably already familiar with within the subcontractor side. The category selection then will allow you to browse on the different work categories you've got set up. In the case of an application-led subcontractor, then we just need to confirm to the system that we are going to have an application presented in relation to this particular order. No values associated with that. That's just a confirmation there's going to be an application. Using the category button again will then allow you to select from the list of work categories that you've set up a split between labour and materials and various other different breakdowns that you could have. So we could be saying here it's measured work on this occasion it's going to be a value of a certain value of £1,000. It's going to recognise the standard terms that you've got set up for this particular subcontractor in terms as to whether it's a cumulative or a movement type transaction, any retention default that's being included, the VAT charge that's going to be appropriate, and any discount deduction that's going to be made. All of these are suggested based upon the terms that you've set against the subcontractor and can be amended per purchase order line. Using the category here again will allow us to select a different work category option, maybe materials this time. So this is going to recognise, for example, that you've got a different way of handling the materials as opposed to the labour. So over on the right-hand side, it's saying that this is not going to be included in the tax calculations, i.e. the CIS tax calculation, whereas the work side of things was. Saying OK at that point, we'll now present you with a purchase order consisting of 2 lines. I can preview that if I want to be able to see the content of it. The way that the purchase order is designed is entirely up to you. This is an example of our out-of-the-box offering. We can easily add your company logo to it, but the content of it and the wording of it can be fine-tuned to suit your particular requirements. In addition to the purchase order, you may also choose to send out terms and conditions. And rather than having to remember to do that each time, you can have that set as an always attached rule. So the T's and C's file, whatever you've chosen to call it and where it's ever stored, can automatically be picked up and sent out when you do a print or in this case an email. You can also use the document button if you wanted to drag and drop any other additional documents in, maybe copies of site maps or specifications or any other further detail that you wanted to provide to the subcontractor. If I just use the print button here, that's going to confirm the purchase order. It's going to update it as a purchase order. It's going to create the order record necessary against the subcontractor for the raising of future applications and also payment invoices or certificates. Okay, but it's also crucially going to give you an indication of the committed cost on the job. So it's saving that file against the contract, but it's also going to be updating the value of committed costs on that particular contract. So if we go into our contract inquiry and call up that job, Whilst we've had no impact on the actual costs, if we use the total option, we'll be able to see that in total there is a £4,500 worth value of committed costs on that contract for subcontractor orders. If we want to see that in more detail, use the orders button towards the bottom, and that can show you each and every one of the purchase orders that you've got sitting on that particular subcontractor. So there's a £1,500 one I just raised a few minutes ago. I could double click it, we could see its content, and we could use the document button to retrieve an image of it. That's then ready for you to process, in this case, an application against that purchase order, but depending on the nature of the order, it would then expect there to be a raising of an invoice or a payment certificate. So that can be used instead of having to manually create the order record within the subcontractor module. Okay, giving you the valuable additional view on the committed costs on the contract. Hope that was of use to you, and thanks for watching.